Alright, I find kind of interesting that the author of this book, Will Jordan, aka The Critical Drinker, first became known for criticizing the movie Captain Marvel. And I find it fascinating because this book, his second book in his Ryan Drake thriller series, is actually doing the same mistake Captain Marvel did, and it was so engaging. If you want to know more about this, stay tuned. Watch this video to the end because we're doing a read through this book, and also if it becomes too much for me, I'm taking a drink. Of course, I've put time in this book, I've strained my liver. You'll see how much if you watch this video to the end for your entertainment. So please leave a like on this video and maybe subscribe if you like it. So let's get going. Hello geeks and ghouls, as I've said in my previous The Book Haul video, I have found this book in this bookstore and I was planning to read it on a kind of read along. So it's Saturday afternoon and the book I'm about to start is Will Jordan's Sacrifice. It's book 2 in his Ryan Drake series. And Will Jordan is kind of a YouTuber at the moment. He's known as The Critical Drinker. He's doing a lot of movie reviews about action movies and superhero movies. And it's kind of an interesting take on the genre, because what really impressed me is that instead of being lazy and going like woke Hollywood is destroying movies, he actually has a lot of valid criticism about how the genre works and what doesn't work in the genre. And I really do enjoy his very short reviews of older action movies from the 80s and the 90s, where he clearly enjoys them and they're positive, and I get where he's coming from. And since a lot of his critique is actually spot on about what's working and what's not in action movies, and he has some suggestions on how to fix certain movies that I'm not always agreeing with, but I suggest, yes, it's clear that he has a very good understanding of the action genre. And I was curious if he was able to write a book that was, good. He could definitely talk the talk, but can he walk the walk? So we're about to find out. And alright, I'm not a huge fan of action thrillers. I've read a couple of Lee Child books that I do enjoy most of the time. So that's my reference for the genre. Most of the other action thriller books I've read, and I'm trying to read a lot of action books lately because I want to write some cyberpunk action stuff, and yeah, I need to know how these guys do it. So yeah, if it's a good book of the genre, it means it's an easy read. The chapters are very short, like it's 500 pages and has 50 some chapters on it. So I guess it's very short chapters, 10 pages per chapter, and I guess the pace will be good. It means that it's a weekend read. You can grab this book on Saturday and finish it by Sunday. So that's why I'm planning to finish it and take some time and come here and tell you about how it's going. I was planning to do this in my living room, but unfortunately the filming setup there is not quite working, so I'll do it in my office room, I guess, where my main PC is. And this means I won't be on the couch reading it for... so yeah, I'm trying to do this sober. Will Jordan's gimmick is that he's a drunk Scottish guy. I'll try to do it sober. But if at some point I don't quite like this book and I was like, oh, I can't finish it, I'll definitely bring some alcohol. And yeah, this read-along will be some kind of fun, I guess, if it gets into a drunken slurring me. Believe me, I'm a lousy drunk, so you don't want me. You want me sober, alright? So let's see about the author. While studying for a degree in IT, I can already, he's got the attitude mentality. I know, I'm one of them. Will Jordan worked as a number of part-time jobs, one of which was an extra in television feature films. Cast as a World War II soldier, he was put through military boot camp. I was too, and it was not as an extra. It was a real military boot camp, and taught to handle and fire weapons in preparation for the role. Yeah, I also learned how to fire and also maintain weapons, including light artillery, for my role as an expendable in case my country goes to war. The experience piqued his interest in military history. My experience did not. Alright. And encouraged him to learn more about conflicts past and present. Having always enjoyed writing, he used this research as the basis for his first thriller, Redemption, supplementing it with visits to weapon ranges in America and Eastern Europe to gain first-hand knowledge of modern weaponry. He lives in Fife with his wife and son, and is currently writing the third novel in the Ryan Drake series, Betrayal. Alright, Satan's legit writer's background and having first-hand experience on military and using weapons is always a plus, considering the people writing this kind of stuff that have never been in a war or in an army. Let's get to the reading. Alright, I'm like 2 or 3 pages in, and yeah, it starts in in Afghanistan in 2008, and there is this helicopter of U.S. Army men. They're in a helicopter and they're talking, and I mean the beginning is like the way they're introduced is like bleh. But then there is this very funny bit with one of them trying to trigger a grenade from his weapon, only to bounce in front of him, but it's idiot-proof. So it made me chuckle, and that's always a good sign. On page 6. I'm not quite keen on the writing yet. I've got this uncanny valley feeling of the writing being both too telly and trying to impress the reader with a lot of details that don't quite fit the pacing, but at the same time there are some witty parts. Like you have this pair of binoculars that is watching the helicopter those troops are in, along with a spook, an older man who they believe to be part of the CIA or the NSA. The back of the I hate this character, right? The back of the book says that it's a senior CIA operative, and then you get to the fact that describing the hands of the binoculars, so we get panning shot, that's very cinematic, and then you have this detail that he only has 8 fingers, so that made it interesting. I'm not a big fan of the writing. There are things here that feel interesting, but this writing style up to this point is not my cup of tea or whiskey. Alright, I've finished chapter 1. The helicopter the CIA operative and the soldiers are in is hit by a missile. It goes down, and some men go in, take the CIA operative, and they kill one of the soldiers. The other one is he's killed in an impact, and I don't like the writing. The writing is over detailed, it feels blocky, but at the same time there are little flourishes of wit that make me want to maybe believe that maybe I'll get through this book sober. But yeah, the writing is, I believe it's a genre thing, alright? I think that it's very important to describe how the missile and the guns are used and throw numbers in. I think this is a Tom Clancy thing, having too many details, and it's part of the genre. It's something I don't quite enjoy in the genre, though. I guess fans of military thrillers will enjoy this. So nevertheless, let's go on and see if there is some intrigue and action coming. I mean, let me give you an example of this flourishes. The Black Hawk was no Apache gunship. Its turns were slow and lazy by comparison, like a luxury sedan set against an F1 racing car. But even then, the sudden violence of the turn was enough to push Carter forcefully down into his seat, and that is good writing. A lot of what is before and after is not. I need a haircut. Chapter 2 won me over. It starts with our protagonist Ryan Drake, which is like really, we should do a game. Action thriller protagonist or porn star. because yeah, that's the thing. It's a very cliched action thriller name, Ryan Drake. It rolls the tongue right. So it kind of won me over because yes, there is a lot of details here, but I really like how at some point it builds an ambience. And it's Ryan Drake driving to one of his colleagues' house to have a barbecue, and there is also another colleague there who is, is really worried about Ryan because we have a quick recap of the first book. So this chapter exists just to show us how things have gone since the previous book and establish the newest book. I haven't read the previous one, of course, but it works. It got me up to speed. Ryan Drake works in the CIA, he's out having a barbecue. There is some light humor here and some good ambience and some characters we probably know from before, so it's a nice revisit to them or introducing them to us to begin with. If you're like me who jumped in the series book 2, I guess that this kind of books can be read out of order. I guess the main idea for this kind of books, I used to call them airport books, meaning that if you're on the airport, you can grab one of these books, read it, and then forget about it. So quarters shouldn't be that important, I guess. Again, Lit Child is the king of this kind of book because you can basically read his books in any order, I guess. So yeah, that was interesting. We get the idea that yes, this Will Jordan guy can write good. Can write a decent book, I guess. He's winning me over by giving me the characters of the book, and I can see where his success on YouTube comes from, because he has this wit style, this way of getting you interested, of having colorful dialogue, and it shows in this book. When he doesn't go into the tried and true way of adding details to give you more authority of him understanding his raw materials and having done his research, he can actually build some humor and some heart and some ambience into his work. So again, that's a good sign. I may finish the book sober. Again, the audience for this book is mostly men, businessmen or military veterans. And this kind of writing is what men who don't read a lot of fiction consider good writing to be, with the details. And of course, veterans are good to see details they know, so they can trust the author, because there are a lot of people like me who will write about military stuff without having an idea what they're writing about. Alright, there are a lot of geeks like me who will write about war and action, and we have no idea about these things. So it's important to establish that yes, I've done my homework and this will be appreciated. And I know the target audience for these books. Alright, so yes, I'll repeat this again and again and again. Now let me go to chapter 3. Alright, I start chapter 3 and I stumble upon this line. One thing Drake had to commend the agency on was their sense of irony. The George Bush Center for Intelligence, itself a contradiction in terms. And really, the previous chapter starts with Ryan Drake driving and listening to the radio where they talk about how the stock market is falling because it's 2008. And here we have this Bush is an idiot, which is also a very 2008 thing. Because yes, I don't know if you remember the early zeros, but everybody hated George Bush. Everybody thought he was a tool. So yeah, that's a good trip down the memory lane. Alright, chapter 3 done, as well as part 1 of the book. I think it's split in 5 parts. Chapters 2 and 3 have been somewhat chunky, so in this one we've got Ryan and his team, because he was having a barbecue with his team, John Keegan, a sniper, and Kira Frost. Sorry, that's these names are just too on the nose. Who is a specialist, and they are briefed that our CIA operative, who was building a civilian network of spies in Afghanistan, was captured by former Mujahideen, a splinter cell of Al-Qaeda who was losing the war in Afghanistan by this point. That was captured in the past by Ryan Drake. So there is a bit of a personal beef between the two men, which is always good in a book like that. It amps up the stakes, and I also like how there is some sort of power struggle within the CIA, cross purposes, etc. In the first book, Ryan Drake stumbles upon some sort of conspiracy within the agency, and he has to deal with that. So this continues over here because he made a deal with them to be silent and stay in the agency so that his silence can be ensured. He's an agent in a separate program, which I guess is, I think basically is a death squad. He was in SAS before going into the CIA, so he's British. And yeah, there is this, he is at odds with his new supervisor, who thinks he's terror center or something. You know, he's someone who is always behind the line, always never have been fit. He's very fat, so that makes him bad, I guess, for an action guy like Ryan Drake. Yes, of course, it's the evil bureaucrats that real action men hate. It's kind of a truism, come to think of it, in the army, but it's a trope, right? So yeah, he has to go to Afghanistan and save the CIA agent from, from this, what's his name? Kuras Anwari. And as he's assembling the team, he learns that he will also be joined not only by his two other guys who have other people in the barbecue, but also with forensic experts on explosive, who is named McKnight. I'm really not making up those names. They're real. And he sees a photo of her and she looks kind of pretty. He catches Ryan's eye, so I guess there'll be a romance between them. I guess, just to hit all the tropes in the genre. Again, the writing is somewhat clunky at points, and at other points it rolls. I don't know, maybe it's my idea because I have to stop and make these videos, but I think that this book is not flowing quite right yet. I'm 40 pages in. I guess I've been reading them for an hour and making videos in between, so it's not a bad pace overall. Yeah, and every new part starts with details on the British Afghani war, or British Afghani wars in the past. Yes, the previous British Afghani wars, like the 1839 invasion of the British, and this is about the second invasion, so I guess it's a military history of Afghanistan and how it was never a great place for invaders because of the way the ground is there, I guess. So yeah, part 2 is Accession. Part 1 was called Recollection. So let's see how this goes, alright? I'm like, I can make this and stay sober. Okay, I'm on chapter 4, the early pages, and I have to give the author of this book, this Will Jordan guy, an applause, I guess, because there's some details here and there that quite get me believe that he knows what he's doing. I mean, it starts with Ryan Drake in a plane going to Afghanistan, and he has spent hours and hours there, so he's like itchy to get on the ground even though it's a war zone. Something that he's told by a pilot who adds the detail that yes, we're still high because of precaution. Black Hawk was shot down and there are probably surface-to-air missiles on Afghanistan. So we start to get that what happened has made the stakes go up because the terrorist leader has been able to shoot down a helicopter, so that's bad because the Americans rely a lot of their aircrafts in Afghanistan, and if the enemy can shoot them down, things are bad. And also he's taking the folder of the captive of Harrison Mitchell, who is 50 years old, and he was. There is a detail here that really caught my attention. He says that he was in an office job for years and years, and 6 months ago he asked to go back into the field. And this piques Drake's interest. And I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that this guy, this Mitchell guy, was behind something else. And we're not told yet, and it will throw a wrench into Drake's and his squad's plans. But that's a hook that is very well hidden in the book, not too well hidden, but you really have to pay attention and say, what if it comes into play later? What if something is off here? Makes me want to continue reading. And a bit later in chapter 4, Kira, who is on her laptop watching the tape of that the terrorists have sent to the CIA, notices that Anwar, the terrorist, calls his captive a spy. So he's aware and thinks that he probably knew that the helicopter transported the spy, and that's quite an interesting hook, and Ryan tries to say, oh no, right. And as he's about to tell her about the capture of Anwar, because he captured him and kept him alive instead of killing him, and of course Kira is like, why didn't you kill him? It's time for for the plane to land. And of course there is this very bumpy ride and this goofy sense of humor about things going wrong in a bumpy ride, about Marines puking all over the flight in the previous wind hit a rough patch storm. So yeah, this chapter does a very good job of feeding you some information that's relevant while in downtime, while also being entertaining and juggling a couple of balls quite proficiently. So yeah, I think he can walk the walk by this point. It's not great writing. It's not the best this genre can offer. I think it's a bit bogged down by the genre. And if he was doing something more civilian-like, I guess, if the main character was a bit more, had a bit more of a personality, I guess, because this Drake is feels a lot like this action He-Man, who is a bit colorless. If it was a book that the author could go wild, it would have been much more entertaining. Alright, chapters 5 and 6 done. Let me tell you what. The worst type of book to do a read along about it on YouTube is definitely a book like this. A competent book. Because it's not great enough to make you wow and super energetic about it, and at the same time it's not bad enough so you can laugh about how bad it is. And most of the read-alongs I've seen are the second kind. It's about laughing at every stupid thing, and this one is not stupid. It's competent. Not great though. Doesn't make me want to read more books of this kind. Makes me understand what the genre is, and that is not my cup of tea. So our heroes land. They meet Samantha McKnight, who is hardened by Afghanistan, but there's no spark of romance there yet. And they leave the base on a jeep, Keegan, Drake, and McKnight. And there are Taliban spotters outside. Some is driving very fast her jeep because she doesn't want to allow for the Taliban to set up an ambush for her. So already there is some tension rising here. And of course, they see some Taliban spotters that the army cannot detain yet because they have no proof. Because that's how things work in the real world, I guess. And unbeknownst to them, Qurashi Anwar, what's his name? Yes, Qurash Anwari is watching them from away with a telescope, and he's covered by a net, a camouflage net on top. He's basically waiting for Ryan Drake to come to the airport, and he's calling his man he's using the radio to call his man and say the CIA is here and they're going to the crash site. So I'm going to chapter 7 expecting some action.